Hey there, pals. This is Tasha. I never imagined that my homemade lasagna, which I made from scratch, would cause problems in my marriage. I am now in my early 40s and enjoying the life I had imagined for myself in Canada, having a fulfilling work, a beautiful suburban home, and ample time to indulge in my love of cooking would be the perfect life for me. I really believe that was my life. The archetypal corporate heavyweight is my husband, Larry. He exudes an air of self-assurance thanks to his well-tailored clothing, spacious city office, and prominent position. He was often gushing over my food when we were initially married. He would often remark, "Tasha, this pot roast is absolutely delicious. Also, your apple pie might be the lucky winner." I felt like I was making a positive impact on his life after hearing these remarks. However, a change has occurred lately. Minor things like an eyebrow arch or a soft, "it's fine," following a bite of my dish were all I could expect at first. He proceeded to make comparisons between his mom's cuisine and mine. He would mention that his mom would occasionally season her meatloaf with a pinch of nutmeg, and the pasta from mom is always cooked just right. Al dente. Is this, in your opinion, a little too done? I ignored it initially, but then it started to hurt. Kelly, Larry's mom, resides just a short distance away. Even though we don't see her on a daily basis, she is still very much a part of our life. We eat supper at her place every Saturday, and it's always an ordeal. She keeps an eye on all the dishes I set out, offering comments that are innocuous at first glance, but hurt deep inside. She'll grin and remark something like, "That's an interesting way to season the chicken," or, "Oh, I had no idea you used that much salt." It's her method of expressing her dissatisfaction with my culinary skills. Then, last night, an incident occurred that deeply disturbed me. For supper, I painstakingly seasoned and roasted a chicken that I had spent hours cooking. It occurred to me as I was plating it that Larry was snapping a photo of it. Perhaps he wanted to preserve the memory because he was proud of what I had created. However, I had trouble sleeping later that night. When I went downstairs to fetch a drink of water, I noticed Larry's phone on the kitchen counter, its screen beeping with an alert. I glanced, knowing it wasn't right. My discovery stunned me. All the photos were emailed to his mom, including an album containing nearly every meal I had prepared in the previous month. As I perused the messages, my spirits dipped. "Oh no, the chicken looks dry," was her most recent message. "Remind Tasha that using the right brine would solve that problem. She'll get my recipe from me." It was more painful than I anticipated to read those words. Not only was he telling his mom about my efforts, but he also allowed her to criticize me from a distance, which made me feel betrayed. I felt like no matter how much I put into the kitchen, it was never good enough, neither for Larry nor, most assuredly, for Kelly. I understood that night that this was about more than just eating. It was about how I felt unloved and unnoticed even at home. Someone must have punched me in the gut. I felt that way. I had no idea that Larry's mom was discreetly taking pictures of all the meals I had painstakingly cooked and sending them to her for her expert assessment. More than any grievance Larry had ever voiced, the betrayal aged. I wanted to scold him and demand to know his motivations for acting in this way. My thoughts were racing with questions, so I retreated to bed. Had he been telling her anything else? For what amount of time has this continued? Why wasn't he satisfied with me? There was more at stake than simply food, I thought to myself as I lay there, staring up at the ceiling. It dealt with issues of trust, respect, and my diminishing feeling of self-worth. Well, then what am I to do? The prospect of starting a major argument terrified me because Larry was my entire universe. I then did what any decent wife would do. I pretended I hadn't received the texts and promised myself I'd be more diligent the following day. I woke up early the following morning and prepared Larry's go-to-breakfast. It appeared like they expected me to be the ideal wife, and I wanted to show him, and perhaps his mom, that I could deliver. but I could feel a still, quiet voice within me insisting that something had shifted. Their union was idyllic. I was unsure of how to repair it, or even if I desired to do so any more, as I worried that ours was beginning to exhibit signs of wear and tear. I was trying so hard to be the ideal wife that the days melted into one another. However, I always felt that my efforts were insufficient. The confines of our home shrank my universe. Larry gave me fresh ammunition to criticize every day. "Tasha, stand up straight. You're embarrassing me," he muttered at a business function. On another occasion, he advised me to forego dessert after patting my stomach, despite the fact that I hadn't put on any weight. Little by little, every remark and critique ate away at me. My dearest buddy Joyce left another missed call on my phone. I couldn't muster the courage to respond to her desire to speak. I was embarrassed to admit to her that I had changed and was unhappy. While it was raining outside, I looked in the mirror and saw my reflection. The woman staring back at me was hardly recognizable. I seemed to have a perpetual scowl on my face, lifeless hair, and dark circles under my eyes. I don't know when I became this doppelganger of old. The sound of Larry and his mom, Kelly, laughing could be heard from downstairs. As I stood there, soulless, I could hear their joyous laughing echoing throughout the home. At the very top of the stairs, I sat down and listened. It was as if I were an outsider peering in on my own life, trying to make sense of what had happened and whether or not I would ever feel normal again. "I am astounded by your ability to tolerate her," Kelly said with a harsh laugh. "Do you recall her attempt with beef Wellington?" "Wow, what a farce!" Larry responded with a chuckle, saying, "Mom, be nice. She makes an effort. Like seeing a child play house, it's very endearing." I felt a breaking point within. As my breath came in short, terrified gasps and my chest tightened, I hurried back into the bedroom. My eyesight became blurry as tears welled up in my eyes, and the walls seemed to enclose me. In spite of my trembling hands, I retrieved my phone and called the one person I could confide in entirely. I gulped out the word Joyce as I managed to get the words out. "I want assistance." "Oh my heavens, Tasha. Been somewhere." The expression of worry and concern in Joyce's voice betrayed her deep care for you. My long-repressed emotions began to bubble to the surface the moment she spoke. All the years of suffering, anger, and low self-esteem finally came crashing down. I vented to her about the relentless criticism, the emotional toll it took from Larry and Kelly, and the sense of identity crisis I was experiencing within my own marriage. The soothing tone of Joyce's voice as she listened helped ease my anxiety. "Pay attention to what I'm saying," she stated with conviction. "Tasha, this isn't the usual. Larry should be ashamed of himself. You should consider going." "To what place, though?" Quietly, I expressed my fear and confusion. "I don't know what to do." "First things first," she whispered softly. "Dr. Peter is a therapist whose number I'm messaging you. This is her area of expertise. She helps folks just like this. Tell me you'll give her a call." Anxieties and optimism swirled in my stomach as I studied the figure on my phone screen. In the midst of the total blackness, it seemed like a glimmer of light. I rang Dr. Peter's office with trembling hands. I forced myself to speak while taking a deep breath in response to the compassionate voice. "Hey, I would like some assistance." The scheduling of that appointment gave me a glimmer of hope, however little. I had hoped that maybe I could rediscover what it was like to be entire for the first time in a very long time. I felt strangely at ease as I entered Dr. Peter's office, the stark white walls providing a blank slate upon which to write my story. Dr. Peter gave me a kind glance as I twisted my fingers uncomfortably in my chair. In a low voice, she whispered, "Tasha, why don't you explain your purpose for being here?" There was an uplifting quality to her voice. I started to let go of all the baggage I had been carrying, including hurt, manipulation, and self-doubt, as time went on. As we progressed through our sessions, Dr. Peter made it clear to me the impact that Larry's comments and Kelly's assessments had on me in ways that I hadn't previously recognized. "You aren't valuable based on what Larry thinks or what Kelly thinks," Dr. Peter told me. Before this, what was Tasha's favorite thing? It was a profound question. I recalled a period when I relished the opportunity to whip up a tasty treat for my own enjoyment, rather than with the intention of pleasing others or making a grand impression. I came to the realization that I yearned for that joy once more. Knowing this was the first baby step towards getting my life back, I stood in the kitchen one night and chose to cook for myself, taking my time and enjoying every step of the process. I decided to bake my grandmother's apple pie one day since it was my favorite treat when I was a kid. A sense of ease washed over me as the kitchen was filled with the comforting aroma of cinnamon and apples. At that very moment, Larry strode in, smelt around, and scowled. "Am I smelling something? You know what? I really like Mom's pecan pie more," he tossed off. I was slow to make him happy, which was a first. This recipe was passed down from my grandmother. I declared with a calm voice, "I'm going to cater to my own needs." Astonished and somewhat amused, Larry's expression betrayed his disbelief. Taking a stand for myself was a tiny step towards building my courage. I knew it was high time to get back in touch with a significant other, my sister Julie. I tried to reconnect with Larry despite the fact that his subtle tactics had driven a wedge between us over the years. Julie was really happy to see me again. She drew me into an embrace and whispered, "I've missed you so much, Tasha. I had a feeling that Guy wasn't right for you all along." I started to rediscover who I was with the help of Julie and Dr. Peter. I enrolled in a cooking class, joined a reading club, and even started to draw out blueprints for the cafe I had always imagined opening, things I had long since forgotten. As I tried to be more authentic at home, the tension increased. Larry began to lose his cool and composure. He lost it one night when I refused to back out of our arrangements with Julie. "When did you start responding to me?" Because I remembered that I am a human being and not a puppet, I met his gaze and said, "Since I remembered that." We were both taken aback by the statements, but I felt more empowered than before. On wet Thursday, the last straw finally broke. Bringing lunch to Larry's office was my plan to surprise him. Maybe if we could only get back together, we could finally be at peace. However, on my way to his office, I overheard a woman's voice exclaim, "Oh, Larry, you're so bad," followed by muted laughing. If your little wifey knew, what would she say? As soon as I opened the door, I felt my heart drop. Janet, a woman from a competing company, got entangled with Larry. "Whoa, Tasha." Larry sprang to his feet, his cheeks flushing. "This doesn't appear to be what it is. Let me clarify." I preferred not to hear any further justifications, though. Excuses were no longer an option. With my pulse pounding from adrenaline, I pivoted and made my way out. I had filed for a divorce and was ready for him when he returned home that night. "Explain it to me," he wheezed. "Freedom," I responded gently, "for our sakes." A look of wrath crossed his face. "You're going to need me to stay alive. You are insignificant." Recalling the value I had restored to myself during treatment and the encouragement of individuals who genuinely cared for me, I remained steadfast. A hard "No, Larry" came out of my mouth. It's all about me, and I should begin acting accordingly immediately. In the midst of preparing to leave, I came across the blueprints for the cafe I had always imagined. After years of being under Larry's thumb, the reins of my destiny were now in my hands. Stepping out of that house with confidence, I bid farewell to the shy Tasha I had always imagined for myself and welcomed the life of my true self. I felt like a new person the day I signed the divorce papers. I didn't turn around. I just kept walking away, leaving Larry's face betraying a combination of bewilderment and wrath. I was free, I got my fair compensation, and I was looking forward to building my own future. I felt a mix of nerves and excitement on the day my cafe, Tasha's Haven, opened to the public. I sat and watched as the first customers trickled in, their breath heavy with the aroma of baking pastries. Watching the joy on their cheeks as they savored each bite assuaged my anxieties. My little cafe, Tasha's Haven, quickly gained a reputation for excellence. Both the warm and inviting ambience and the mouth-watering food were praised by the food critics. The regulars who came for the warmth and comfort were the most important to me, though. I expanded alongside the cafe. When I was with Larry, the insecure lady had vanished. Tasha stood in her place, exuding self-assurance and joy as she went about her life. I couldn't help but think, poor guy, when I heard rumors that Larry had tied the knot with Janet. I could see the future he had with her crystal clear. Months passed, and Tasha's Haven was just as successful as before. Then, on a wet afternoon, an ungainly, shaky figure waltzed into the cafe. Realizing it was Larry took some time. He reeked of cheap alcohol and was drenched in his own perspiration. A slower and a trembling voice told Tasha, "You must assist me." Janet, she made off with it all. In between sobs and coughs, he broke down how Janet had conned him out of his money and company shares. She had departed, and he was devastated. "I am at my wits' end, Tasha," he pleaded. As I beheld the guy who had once wielded such power over me, I experienced an unusual blend of sorrow and contentment. "I apologize, Larry," I responded with a composed tone, "but I am no longer responsible for your troubles." Callie strode in at that exact moment as if by magic. A look of despair changed her normally arrogant demeanor. "I beg you, Tasha, my dear, surely you can spare a little something. We are related ultimately." I felt lighter than before, and I couldn't help but chuckle. "What about family?" I shook my head in disapproval. "You two made it very obvious that I was never worthy of family status. Kindly depart. My customers are being agitated by you." Feeling discouraged, Larry and Kelly trudged out into the rain. A burden was lifted from my shoulders as they departed. It felt like the final knot in my previous existence had finally come undone. Feeling completely liberated, I unlocked the doors of Tasha's Haven the following morning. A life reborn, one brimming with happiness, meaning, and dignity, that was mine to create. The door to the future was now open, and I was ready to welcome it after I had fully released the past. One morning, I was shocked to learn that Tasha's Haven had been chosen the best cafe in town in the newspaper. I was almost unable to believe it. It was amazing how my modest cafe had grown into a beloved and revered spot. Realizing that this moment was the culmination of my efforts and the changes I had undergone was an awesome sensation. Joyce, Julie, and other amazing friends I had made along the road were among my invitees for the celebration. Everyone was so happy and laughing when we arrived at the cafe. Everyone was really thrilled for me as we swapped stories. Witnessing my pals savoring the environment I had painstakingly constructed warmed my heart. As we raised a glass to Tasha's Haven, the aroma of freshly baked pastries and coffee permeated the room. Looking out the window, I caught sight of a figure outside at a certain moment. Looking through the glass, Larry, clad in his fast food uniform, had a yearning look on his face. Perhaps he was thinking back on the life he had led and the joy he had abandoned as he stood there and observed us. Seeing the happiness and achievement he had lost brought a pang of grief to his eyes. Our gazes locked for an instant before he averted his eyes and vanished into the throng. A stark reminder of how drastically things had changed was seeing Larry in that state. It got me thinking about how our decisions impact our life. I had made up my mind, and Larry had already made up his. Arriving here wasn't a picnic, though. I had endured a great deal of difficulty, uncertainty, and suffering. Despite everything, I am now one step closer to living the life of contentment, autonomy, and fulfillment that I had always dreamed of. After learning of Larry's treachery, What actions would you have taken if you were in my position? Would you have gone after him right away, expressing your hurt and fury? Contrarily, would you have waited until you were prepared to regain control of your life before deciding what to do next? This is a difficult question with no simple solution. But I think we can learn from one another if we share our stories and experiences. While we are all on our own paths, it is often helpful to learn about the decisions made by others in order to gain insight or strength. Leave a comment with your views if Tasha's story touches you. Is this something you've encountered before? Please tell me how you dealt with it or what advice you would give to someone going through the same thing. What you've been through is important, and sharing your story could encourage or uplift someone else who is also struggling. If you found Tasha's story inspiring and would like to hear more about people who have overcome obstacles and found happiness, then please subscribe and hit the like button. One person's story can change the world, and yours could be the one that gives someone else hope. Your presence on this path is greatly appreciated. Let us continue to uplift one another and discover resilience in our individual journeys.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer, a 32-year-old marketing executive with a passion for fitness and wellness. I even run a blog called Strength Within, where I share tips and personal experiences to inspire others. 2 years ago, I married Thomas, thinking I found my soulmate. He supported my healthy lifestyle completely. We'd go on morning runs, meal prep on Sundays, and even brainstorm content for my blog. It felt perfect, until we moved closer to his mother, Lisa. Lisa lived in a gated community, claiming her health required proximity to family. At first, I was hopeful about the move, but her influence quickly turned my perfect marriage into a nightmare. Jennifer, darling, she'd coo at family dinners, you simply must try my pot roast. Though perhaps a smaller portion for you. She'd say this while setting down a food scale to measure my plate. Everyone else was served normally. Mom, stop. This is embarrassing. Thomas would protest weakly, but he'd cave as soon as Lisa replied, I'm just trying to help, dear. She always managed to slip in comments like Susan, Thomas's first wife, understood the importance of portion control. Such a lovely figure she kept. Her best friend Karen would nod knowingly. Oh yes, Susan was always so conscious of her appearance. She'd add, dismissing my accomplishments as a former state swimming champion. It wasn't just the dinners. Lisa's scrutiny seeped into every corner of my life. One evening, I overheard her on the phone. I'm really concerned about Jennifer's relationship with food. Thomas never had these issues with Susan. When I confronted Thomas, he shrugged, saying, she only wants what's best for the family. The turning point came when Lisa started showing up uninvited. One day, as I prepared for a major client presentation, she breezed into my office. Working such long hours, no wonder Thomas eats alone so often. You know Huggy loves a home-cooked meal, just like Susan used to make. Her jabs grew bolder. Is that outfit really appropriate for someone in your position? She said, eyeing my professional attire. The hemline is rather ambitious. It wasn't just verbal barbs. I started noticing strange things happening at work, emails disappearing, meetings mysteriously rescheduled. My assistant eventually let it slip. Some woman keeps calling HR, claiming to be your mother-in-law. She's concerned about your mental health. The final straw came at home. My gym equipment was tampered with, the weights dangerously loose. I could have been seriously injured. Lisa's reaction. Oh dear, why not speak to my friend, Dr. Roberts? Just a friendly chat. Thomas agrees it would be best. When I met Dr. Roberts, the trap became clear. Your mother-in-law tells me you've been struggling with body image and aggressive tendencies, he said. That's when I knew I had to take action. I started documenting everything. Voice recordings of Lisa's helpful comments, photos of tampered equipment, screenshots of my canceled appointments. Then Ashley, the daughter of one of Lisa's friends, approached me at the gym. Mom told me not to say anything, she whispered, but I overheard Lisa on the phone with your HR department. She said you might need medical leave for your own good. Lisa had weaponized her social circle, country club gossips, charity committee members, even the neighborhood watch, to spread the narrative of the unstable daughter-in-law. I just don't know what to do about Jennifer, I overheard her telling the garden club. She's becoming paranoid. imagining I'm sabotaging her. Susan went through a similar phase before her unfortunate departure. My phone buzzed with a text from Thomas. Mom thinks we should have dinner with Dr. Roberts tomorrow. She's worried about you. I stared at my reflection in the office window, recalling the strong, confident woman I used to be, a competitive swimmer who never backed down from a challenge. Lisa wanted to break me just like she broke Susan. But she had no idea who she was dealing with. I opened my laptop and started a new document, evidence of harassment and manipulation. Game on, Lisa, game on. I needed answers. Susan was the key. We met at a coffee shop 2 towns over, safely away from Lisa's network of spies. Her hands trembled as she stirred her coffee. It's not just about control, she whispered, glancing around nervously. It's about money and power. Lisa keeps her sons trapped through their businesses. She secretly owns majority shares. If they disobey, she threatens to pull funding. That's why Thomas has been so distant. She did the same to my Thomas. Then came the bombshell. Susan leaned in, her voice dropping further. There are cameras everywhere. The bedroom, kitchen, even the bathroom. When I confronted Thomas, he called me paranoid. That's when I knew I had to leave. My skin crawled. I thought about the odd devices I'd noticed at home, in air vents behind picture frames. Lisa's reach extended further than I imagined. Later that night, Sandra called me in a hushed tone. I found something in David's office, documents from Lisa's foundation. She's been laundering money through fake charity events. There's proof of tax evasion, too. The pieces started falling into place. Lisa wasn't just a controlling mother-in-law. She was running an empire of manipulation. David, Sandra's husband, finally opened up during a secret meeting. She had our father's will change on his deathbed, he revealed bitterly. Convinced him we couldn't handle the inheritance. The guilt killed him. Then I learned the truth about Dr. Roberts. I overheard him on the phone while picking up takeout. Yes, cousin Lisa, don't worry. I'll adjust my report accordingly. Jennifer seems unstable. That was the final straw. I began reaching out to others Lisa had hurt. Former daughters-in-law, ex-business partners, and old friends. Each had a story of betrayal and control. Then came Karen's breakdown. She showed up at my office, mascara running. I can't do this anymore, she sobbed. Lisa never had health issues. She faked cancer 3 times to keep her sons close. She's a monster, and I have proof, medical records she forged. The full scope of her schemes became clear. Sabotage contracts, blackmail through her charity's donor list, and even fake auctions to launder money. Every tactic was designed to isolate, destabilize, and dominate. I compiled everything: financial records, recordings, photos, and statements. Lisa thought she was weaving a web to trap me. Instead, she handed me the threads to unravel her empire. At our last dinner, she sneered, "You're just like Susan, unstable, paranoid, delusional." "No, Lisa," I replied, meeting her gaze. "I'm nothing like Susan. I don't run. I fight back." The annual charity gala was Lisa's crowning achievement, a glittering event where the who's who gathered to fawn over her supposed generosity. It was also the perfect stage for her downfall. "Such a lovely evening," Lisa beamed from the podium. "Thanks to your generous donations, our foundation continues to help those in need." The federal agents walked in right on cue. "What's the meaning of this?" Lisa demanded, her voice cracking as they approached. Sandra stood up, her voice ringing through the room. "The meaning? Check your phones, everyone. You'll find proof of how Lisa has been stealing from her own charity for years, funneling donations into her mansion renovations and designer wardrobe." Gasps rippled through the ballroom as hundreds of phones pinged with notifications. Lisa's carefully curated facade shattered in real time. "She's lying," Lisa shrieked. "Thomas, David, tell them." But David stepped forward, his voice firm. "It's over, Mom. I've already transferred control of the family businesses. You're out." Thomas stood frozen, pale and shaking as the truth sunk in. The cameras, the contracts, everything she said. It's all true. "Thomas," I said calmly, locking eyes with him, "you'll be served with divorce papers tomorrow. I'd wish you good luck, but honestly, I don't care anymore." Karen stepped forward, holding a folder of documents. "I have copies of every forged medical record, Lisa. Your fake cancer claims? The hospital foundation's board will be very interested in these." Dr. Roberts tried slipping out unnoticed, but representatives from the medical board intercepted him at the exit. "Your license is suspended," one of them said, "pending an investigation into ethics violations and false reporting." Lisa, the once imposing matriarch, crumbled before everyone's eyes. Her designer dress suddenly looked cheap, her perfectly applied makeup garish under the harsh light of exposure. 6 months later, I stood in the middle of my newly opened wellness center, dedicated to helping survivors of family abuse rebuild their lives. In the background, the news played. Socialite Lisa faces federal charges for tax evasion and charity fraud. Her estate has been seized, and sources report she's now living in a modest apartment outside town. I smiled faintly and turned back to the group at our first retreat. My life had grown so much bigger than the wreckage Lisa left behind. David and Sandra occasionally check in. They're doing well, running the family business ethically. Susan joined my foundation, using her story to help others navigate and recover from manipulation and control. And Thomas? Last I heard, he's in therapy, real therapy this time, not his mother's cousin posing as a doctor. Good for him. Too little, too late. A few days ago, a letter arrived, Lisa's handwriting scrawled on the envelope. It was some long-winded apology, a product of her generation, wanting the best for her family, being truly sorry. I didn't bother reading it. I marked it returned to sender and went back to planning the center's expansion. Yesterday, I ran into Karen at the supermarket. Lisa tried joining the senior center's bridge club, she said, smirking. Nobody would play with her. She just sat there alone until she left. I shrugged and pushed my cart forward. My life's too full to care about revenge now. Today, a package arrived. Security footage from the hidden cameras Lisa installed in my old home. I added it to the thick file labeled close, locked it away in a cabinet, and walked out of the office. Some people keep photo albums from their marriages. I collected evidence. But that chapter of my life is over. If you were in my shoes when Thomas repeatedly chose his mother's side, would you have given him a second chance, knowing he was also a victim of Lisa's manipulation? Or was I right to walk away completely? The hardest part of leaving a toxic relationship isn't just walking out, it's staying gone. Share your thoughts in the comments below.